Boom.
It's podcast, and that was really weak, Andrew. What the fuck? He had so much potential within him. We were just like, just start the episode, man. You got this. Use the power of a mighty lion and unleash the boom within. And he actually just
Boom.
like smoked for like 16 years within 1 second, and opened it with the
Boom.
weakest.
I liked it. I liked it.
Lung cancer.
You have a future in radio.
Yes. Absolutely fucking glorious. So, boom, it is a podcast. I'll just fucking redo the intro. Because and we
Oh,
are
you
here with
didn't
the
like
same
it?
guests as always, Will and Andrew and
Hey.
me. Crystal.
You're
That's
not a
my name.
guest.
Yeah, I'll
but
actually...
alright.
I'll
You're
actually-
not a...
Well, you aren't guests either. At this point, you're just the hosts. Things
Yeah,
are
we're
going
co-hosts.
really well.
Yeah.
I am only scheming to kick off one of you, and I will never tell which one it is.
We'll have to draw straws.
Sure, yeah. I mean, if you think that
You're-
you have a say in
You're
this, like,
scheming to draw straws.
yeah,
One of these days,
you guys
I'll
draw
draw
straws,
straws.
and they'll all be the same length, but they'll have like characters on them that we can decipher, and it's just like a code that basically like spells out like Will is not good enough. It's genius. It's absolute. I mean, one of you is not good. Oh, sorry. Did I just? Oh my goodness, Will. I'm so sorry.
You spoiled the whole game.
I'm so sorry this had to come out now. This is absolutely tragic.
Oh no.
But anyways, enough roasting my friends. It's kind of a hobby of mine. Let's talk about things.
What are the things you have to talk about?
Well, I'm so glad you asked because I was struggling to come up with a segue. I want to talk about the situation with North Americans sucking at video games and how that contrasts with how much money Americans have. So specifically what I'm talking about is I am a huge fan of esports in general. Sports, I'm not that big into, but esports, I'm huge. I watched like so much StarCraft as a kid. Blah blah blah. That's a whole rabbit hole. Let's talk about League of Legends. Most importantly, the North American League of Legends League is doing some absolutely sad boy hours stuff right now. Where they're basically on their hands and knees begging the Chinese, Korean, whatever esports teams. They're saying, please delete. My handset just glitched out. I don't know if you guys could hear that. That really
No.
weird to me. They're saying, please delete the import rules so we don't have to have North American players on our teams anymore. They're just too stinky. Just let us spend all the money and just have Korean teams made of only Korean players in the North American League. Because basically North America has done terribly for a long time, and viewership is down compared to every other server, like the European League, 250,000 viewers, the North American League, 40,000. You know, they're trying their best, and it's pretty much unanimous at this point. Like, North America has higher server ping, half the size player base. Most North Americans are just casuals and don't even play ranks, so they're like, we don't have enough players, we don't have enough money, we don't have the infrastructure. Just let us buy imports and win. They're like on their knees. As I said before, it's very, very sad. But I basically just wanted to raise the question to you guys, not necessarily just about League of Legends, but about regions' roles in sports and esports. Like, how important are they? Well, first, do you guys watch sports, esports at all?
No, I wouldn't say I watch it a lot. Like, I've definitely seen like highlights, of course, but I've never actually sat down and watched like a full tournament.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with them myself. I tend to watch really weird sporting events myself. Yeah.
Yeah, but you guys still know things. Like if I say like Kobe or like Tiger Woods, or I'm like,
Yeah.
touchdown. You guys still know what that means, right? This word not like
Yes.
we completely out of
Oh
left
yeah.
field.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Well, then I'm kind of interested to know your guys' perspectives on this subject as like more, casual people, because maybe I've overthought this to a huge extent, and I've listened to a lot of podcasts about like very invested, like interviewers and like esports personalities talking on the subject. But what do you guys think about regions versus regions in sports? Kind of like the Olympics, like how they all come together after competing like separately, and it's like this big spectacle. Do you guys think that sports would be better with or without that? I mean,
I mean, honestly, I've kind of always thought of sports as like the best team should be at the top. I don't really care what region that team comes from,
mhm.
particularly. I personally would just want to see the best team, right?
Yeah,
That's my kind of take on it cuz like what is a region really? Like I don't see a reason to even throw in that category.
yeah. I
Fair
mean, you
enough.
just want to see like the highest level of play, basically. And like,
Exactly.
if keeping players apart is gonna stop that, then why not just let them group together? Yeah, that's
I
fair,
think that
like if you
naturally
honestly.
leads into yeah.
Yeah.
like what's the point of separating a sport? Like if you're going into a tournament and they're like, "Oh yeah, these are the best players." Why wouldn't you want to see the best possible team? Isn't that the point?
Mhm.
Why would you want to try and segregate that and cut people off from being able to create the best possible team? Don't you want to see the peak of what your sport can go to?
I totally get that. Before
I
I
can see that.
respond to that, how do you feel about it? Well,
I would. So you were saying that the player base in North America is quite a bit smaller than that in, let's say, Europe or in Asia, right?
yeah. Well, all the major regions, like instead of like Asia, it's like China, Vietnam, and Korea are like all separate regions. But like, yeah, basically,
But those would have like
at
a
least
larger
double,
population
at
to
least
choose
double.
from,
Yeah.
right? I think I would, if you're talking about region exclusivity for player teams, I would be worried that if you have a quota to fill of, let's say, North American players, that you're choosing from a lower group or a lower population size, which would
Hmm.
mean that like your access to elite players is greatly reduced. And so if you want to have a competitive chance, but you're region locked, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot right away. And
Hmm.
so you have much less incentive to try in the first place because you basically have to fill most of your team with like subpar players. And you
Yes.
know that because they have to be from North America. And they would more statistically be less yeah, they would statistically be less good of players because there's just a lot less players in North America, the way you're saying it.
Yes, You sound, Will. You sound a lot like the people who own North American orgs right now. You sound like the owner of like TSM, um, the team, or like the guy who's like managing Cloud9. That is basically their opinion. They're saying, so we can have two import slots, so we get two good players, and then I have to fill the rest of my team with this fucking North American dog water fucking can't even like play the game like fools. Um, and that's an interesting take, and I'm really happy now because you guys both have like different viewpoints from where I am. And okay, Andrew, you ended your piece with a question. Do you remember what the question was?
My piece, like what I was saying, I
Yeah,
was
you
just like,
ended it with a
wouldn't
question.
you want, yeah, wouldn't you want to see your sport be played by like the best possible team?
Yes. Okay, absolutely. And here's the thing with that is, first of all, language barriers. Like opening the walls to
Yeah.
just say you can have whatever like ethnicity of player you want on your team. That's not necessarily going to mean that if someone goes out and buys the best player at this role, best player at this role, they're grabbing like Korea, China, North America, EU, or something like that.
Yeah, but
That
isn't
doesn't
that just
necessarily
something that
mean
you
they're going to work together the best. That's
Absolutely, but
just
isn't that something that
one
you have to
small thing.
overcome to become the best team?
Sure, but anyway, I'm just
You
saying
can't.
it's not that simple. Um, but what I want to get to is my perspective on this, which is regional rivalries are awesome, and they totally are like one of the main reasons that I watch League of Legends in the first place is because the North Americans are the underdogs. Objectively, is because the Europeans are like close but still kind of doing their own thing, and then the Korea, China usually have like similar ways of playing the game because their servers are so close. They get like they scrim each other a lot and like practice over there, and you can like follow the game, and you're seeing like this bubble of like play and what they're doing. And you're seeing like how these guys are coming up with their own thing, and then how these guys like are working to keep up. That's kind of what it is with North Americans nowadays. But like um I really like seeing the differences in like culture and you know whatever else, and how they kind of foster into these things. So I like it when the regions are separate. I just had another come back. I'm such a scatterbrain. But oh yeah, so every region also has their own like division that's casted like by like it's not language locked, but like there's like Chinese casters that cast like the NA League, but then there's also EU League, Korea League, China League, blah blah blah, and innately they gain viewership and support by people in their region. So the Chinese players support the Chinese league, North American players support the North American league. Obviously, that's mostly, not entirely, because I'm an NA fan and I think the EU teams are cooler, objectively, unfortunately. And I'm definitely not the only one in that boat. But yeah, it's really cool to watch them like bubble up and then just all come together. It's just like this big mesh of styles. That's basically my whole take. I think the rivalries and like the oh my god, I live there, like always gives you a reason to cheer for these teams. Whereas if it was just XYZ greatest players from wherever nations, it's like then what is that team's like purpose or personality? Like what makes them different at that
Yeah,
point?
but is your country your personality? Is your region your
Well,
personality? I would
no,
I would add that
obviously.
as who gives a shit. Like,
I mean,
I don't care where you're from. Are you good? If not, leave. That's the point of being in this tournament. Like,
mhm,
why should it matter where you're from, right?
yeah. And I mean, it
You
doesn't if you're
definitely
taking the dubs. Like,
there's definitely a different class once you start paying for people to like perform these things. I think I mean even if you look at like our local team here in Edmonton, the Oilers, like I bet you at least half the players are not from Canada. And yet we'd still consider them the Edmonton Oilers. And nobody really raises an objection to that. It's like,
that's
and
true.
I don't know, there seems to be a little bit of a discrepancy between like electronic sports and then actual sports where the moment you're professional and you're allowed to pay someone an absorbent amount of money, well, they can be from basically wherever as
Big
long as they
money.
fit the slot on the team. And, when they were bought properly and, they were done in the proper rotation of the way you trade players.
Yeah,
I think if you kind of create a similar regulation for esports, I wouldn't really necessarily see a problem with that. And I can still kind of vouch for a team as being like, yeah, the Canadian team.
definitely. Well, I mean, how do you feel about what they're doing right now then? Which is they can have two import players, like players from anywhere in the world, as long as they have like three from NA, and they could be anywhere in NA. And they actually recently added Australia, I guess because they just felt bad. They were just like, you could take Australian players now. We don't want them. Um,
Yeah, I
is
think
that a
I
good
think Andrew
balance?
has a point where it's like it's what are you wanting to see in the sport? Are you wanting
Hmm.
to see nationalistic teams going against each other, holding their flag and being like only us on this team and this is our country's representation? Or are you more wanting to see the best of the best like going at each other and you kind of get multiculturalism on each other's teams and stuff like that and it doesn't really matter and you can kind of share stuff. So it's like what do you want to see, right?
Yeah. And like definitely just being like I am from somewhere else is not the most exciting backstory. That's if you want to get like
Yeah.
invested, you can get invested in like individual players and like things like that, like individual stories like on the teams and whatever and the like. I suppose and that's why I'm okay, or why I would prefer if there's some mixing over no mixing. But I also think it's a little silly to just remove it because the other side of the argument is if North American organizations can just buy better players from other regions, then why would they keep supporting like the small come ups, like the junior divisions in North America? Because right now, the only reason that they do that is because they need to get the players and might as well make them as good as possible. But if they could just go overseas for their players, they're not gonna support junior leagues in North America. Like the odds of them actually getting payoff from that is gonna be so ridiculously low. And then the result from that is that North American and like everybody, regular Joes and whatever, if they are really good at the game, even really naturally talented, then there's like no way for them to be what they want to be,
See, I feel like
whereas if they just live somewhere else.
that would tie back more into what Will was saying, where you would honestly have to put a system in place more like what normal sports are opposed to as esports, right? You would have to actually regulate it in the same way and have the same system for it to work properly. Because right now it's kind of just like a free for all with players, which
Yeah,
yeah, that is cool, I guess, because everybody can hop into it and get to a point where you're good enough to compete. But I feel like it needs to be more heavily regulated than it is.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, esports is
I,
like blowing up, and now they've got this success, especially League of Legends. They've got this success now, and viewership has dropped by like 7%, and they're just like, what do we do? What do we do? Like we need to go
Yeah.
back up, but like nobody, like you can't really plan a video game to get more popular. And as a matter of fact, if you try harder to make it more popular, it's probably just gonna fail. And I think that's the same point they're at with the league is they don't know if adding like more focus on like regions or keeping it the same would increase the viewership. Like they keep it the same, NA keeps losing. Okay, or make NA Super League, just spend billions of dollars, get all the best players. Is that really going to increase viewership? Like, it's gonna. If you take all the players from the other regions, are they not just going to watch less at that point? What's to stop the exact reverse from happening?
they might have incentive now because they have members of their own region in other teams to then actually engage with those other teams. And now that these teams, let's say in the hypothetical that they are, paying their teams professionally and they're
Hmm.
able to actually make the team that's the best of the best, then I think people you would get a lot more interest in it. But yeah, that really comes down to the question of like this thing is a business. It's not a charity,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you can never blame a business for not wanting to run like a charity. So what you were saying about like who's going to support these like leagues with kids in
Hmm.
North America, it's like do they have an obligation to if it's not profitable
No,
as a business?
no, absolutely not. And that's why the regulations are important. Like bringing it back to real sports like soccer, like there are rules like this, like you have to have like at least half the roster like local grown talent, so that way soccer will keep supporting their little leagues, and that way baseball will keep supporting their little leagues in like Britain and France and Turkey, whatever, because they realize in sports it is like innately important to just have somewhere for people to put their foot in the door and get started. But because esports is so new, that none of that exists. So if they got rid of this like import rule and they just allowed it, like that stuff would probably never happen. Period. Because as you said, they're looking out for themselves, the businesses, you know. So it's kind of up to in this situation like Riot Games and like the players association and the owners all to like work together and find like a middle ground. which is happening right now, and it seems really complicated. A lot of people are getting very flustered on social media, to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of team
Wouldn't be
owners
the
making
only
That's a nice
thing.
fools
way
of
to put it.
themselves. Oh my
It
god,
is it is
Twitter rage.
definitely, I would say, a time of transition.
Definitely, definitely. I'm
Just how
excited to
well
see
that
how it.
transitions is still up in the air.
Yeah, exactly. Like we don't even know what they're gonna do at this point, but it was 10 teams out of 10 teams, at least to my knowledge, all said we either need to get more imports or all the imports. Like none of them want to keep it how it is. Like 10 for 10 teams, none of them. Which is like obviously North America hasn't even gotten out of the group stage in 3 years. Before that, it was
How do
like
the
4 years. And it was only one team that got out, and they lost immediately after.
how do the individual players feel about this decision about maybe like going to privatize, or maybe
Hmm.
like as an individual player, if the idea or the opportunity to make more money in the future is presenting itself now once they start
Hmm.
dropping these rules, is that not something as an individual, like, League of Legends player that you might actually want?
Absolutely, and I've actually watched a few interviews from players on the subject, and basically the Players Association and the players are all saying keep the rules as they are. That's like there's not really a player that wants to see it gone, or at least I've been watching like European players and North American players speak up on this. Not I'm thinking maybe the Korean and Chinese like superstar players would probably have the reverse opinion because it would just mean more money for them. But in general, like especially North American players and the like, they're all like, no, this is stupid. Why would we do this? Like, no one's gonna care. Like, this is a perspective I've heard multiple times. No one is going to care if we get rid of the region rivalries. Like, right now, the only reason to care about North America, like, they're losing, they suck, whatever, viewership is dropping. But, like, people are clinging on to the hope that the North American underdogs can make it happen, and they want to see like invest in like that better infrastructure, like make up those losses, use what imports you can get, and like make it happen. It's like I'm saying, like the different styles like bubbling up. We want to see North America make that comeback, and that's why a lot of people stuck around. So the fear is if you get rid of that, what's left?
I
Like
feel
then
like
you're just gonna be the
that's
shittiest
kind of an
region.
issue though, because shouldn't you be cheering for a team that's the underdog? Sure, that team could be rooted in North America, but why do you have to be cheering for the region specifically? That's the issue that I'm trying to bring up is
Yeah,
why does it have to be region based instead of just team
team
based?
bears.
Like
Because
there's
it sounds
no
like the
need
region thing
for
is
that.
already dying, and to keep it alive, they have to just put so much
Well,
effort and time into it.
the region
And
thing
it's
is
like,
going great in other places other than North America. Sorry to
right,
break
right.
it
But
to
as a North American company, they're
you.
like, it's only getting worse, and we're basically putting money into a dying thing. That's
Yeah.
that's never a good business decision.
No.
And
I
these are
mean, like
businesses.
it's
They're not individuals, right? So they
Hmm.
have to make a choice for their stockholders. They have to make a choice for basically everyone who has money invested into it. And those are, people's money at the end of the day, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, and I
It's
mean
not
that's
just out of self-interest. It's like you have to do what makes sense as a business, because a business isn't in the business of losing money.
this is a whole rabbit hole. It's honestly getting me really excited. But oh my goodness.
but like
Hmm.
another thing I'd want to say would be tying back to like life sports, right? Like
Hmm. Hmm.
you know what I mean by that. But
Yes, sports,
yeah,
not
We got
esports.
I
you.
don't. Yeah,
Sports.
just
It's in the
sports, not
game.
E.
Yeah,
But
not E, but not EA. Wait, no EA. But I'm sorry.
I feel like there's not like staple teams. Are there staple
Hmm.
teams in esports?
Not really, and I think you might have like actually figured out like one of the main problems with this whole situation is that modern esports nowadays, people cheer for players and people cheer for regions. No one really gives a shit which North American team does it. No one really gives a shit which Chinese team is sitting on top of the world with their golden crown. They're all pretty much interchangeable, and when one team
And that's
like
the
buys a
exact
player from
problem.
another team, then all the fans of that team just move over to the team who bought the player, and then the other org is just like, uh, which,
Because like that ties
yeah,
back to what you were saying with like junior leagues.
mm,
If say sports, like when you're watching like junior sports, you're thinking like, "Oh shit, what team is going to want this player?" Is a certain team going to, draft this player? You
right,
don't think, "Oh, hey, this player's from, NA. Cool."
yeah,
Yeah, he better
You're
get a spot.
exactly like there's no attachment there. You're not like,
yeah,
oh shit, he's gonna join this big team, because there are no staple teams. If you say that,
yeah,
there's of course there's only interest in regions because they have no teams.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there are teams, but nothing that makes
The,
you want to
the teams,
cheer for it, right?
exactly, the teams
Like
don't have personality. They don't have like factors that are like, this is the team that has good junglers, or this is the team that plays around their bot side, or like, this is the team. You know what I mean? Like, there's none of
yeah.
that. It's just like watching drafts in sports. You're thinking, yeah, which team is going to draft this player? But watching the drafts in esports, it's more like, which team's going to be good? I guess. And you just follow the players, and you're like, three good players there, two good players there. So I like Cloud9 this season. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I guess I'll buy Cloud9 merch statistically. Um, and like, there's no like
That's a shit business
personality.
model.
I mean, the only North American org I can think of that has like personality, and which is actually coincidentally the only North American org that's ever done good internationally, is Cloud9. And Cloud9, what they do is they went on to like the world stage against like all the other regions, which are way better, and they're just like pulling out the weird strats that like you see in solo queue, and just like basically like for fun shit, like Singed or Hecarim top lane, or like not bringing flash, which is like a summoner spell that can jump you over walls. It immediately like teleports you. Everybody brings it on every role as every character, but they just go like double offensive summoner spells on like a support in a solo lane. What? They
Yeah.
are North America. They are Ingenuity, and they are like that underdog thing. And actually, they have been like the most successful international NA team, and they have also been one of the only teams that's actually bringing up NA talent. Which brings us back to the other side of the argument, which the only team that's focusing on North American and like developing the region and like picking up new players is actually the best North American team internationally. So, you know, I don't even know if there's an answer to this, but to say the least, it's a pickle. There's
I
a
would
lot
agree.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You haven't said anything in a bit, Will. What is your take?
Um,
Tell us, boy.
it sounds like a transition of business, and I think the more money that
Mhm.
gets into it, and the more profit that there's going to be into it, the more regulation you need on a team. I think if you look at sports teams now, the main draw to their identity is most of the time their logo or their colors or
Their name.
their location, right? Yeah, their name, and that's basically it.
Yeah.
The players, the strategy that they use. Um, Basically everything else about the team becomes like a non-consistent part of their identity, and it's able to change from season to season and play to play, and no one really questions the like identity of the team. But if an entire team's identity is, let's say, its players or its mode of operating, then the moment you change that, well, you fundamentally change the team, and now someone can instantly lose interest in it. And so, because you're not creating any continuity within the team, because you have no way to, because it's all based on either player or the way an individual or the way a team acts, there's no
Mhm.
way to create continuity with a team. So, like, the moment the important members of Cloud9 leave, who gives a shit about Cloud9?
Basically, But then, like, that consistent factor that's going to keep fans there in a lot of these cases, and maybe there's more I'm not thinking of, but it is the region thing. That's the consistent factor that keeps people coming
It
back.
is now.
Yeah,
It is now, but I mean
true.
that's more just being like that. It's the way it is right now, and so we should like that's basically the only thing keeping it. It's like that's because
Mm-hmm.
it's the only thing that's being allowed to keep it because everything is region locked.
Yeah,
If
it's
you got
literally
rid of
the
that
only thing
rule,
people are going to.
yeah,
Yeah.
because that's the rule. So if you got rid of that rule, they wouldn't have to abide by that anymore.
Very true. Very true. Oh my goodness. And yeah, I mean, I also am beginning to see a side to it now where it's like when you were talking about the Oilers, and like it's not really Edmontonian players at all, but it's still the Edmonton team, and people get behind it. It's like long
Yeah,
enough after abolishing the import rule, maybe it would be like that. It's like that's our NA
I'd hope
org
so.
spending our big money for the good players. Yeah. That's basically what basketball is at this point, isn't it?
hmm
I'm pretty
And I mean
detached
that
from
was
basketball,
invented.
but
That was invented here in Canada, and you should have heard the pushback that initially happened once they started talking about professional players. Like the idea of paying someone to professionally play basketball back in the day was considered a horrible idea,
mm-hmm.
and it was considered completely unacceptable. And if like you were found out that you were a professional player on a team, your team could get disqualified. The idea that you would be so or
Well,
like be so obscene in the sport to pay someone to do it. But now it's considered a regular
mm,
practice, and all
yeah.
players are played, or all players are played. Sorry, paid. I can't speak.
All players are paid.
Killing it.
Yeah.
But you definitely
All
see this
paid
transition from when
player. Yeah.
basketball was first invented to now, and it's like we used to not be okay with paying people, and now it's the norm. And I think
Mm,
the more professional a sport becomes, and the more into the public it becomes, you're just going to see that transition. The more money, it's just the way business operates.
definitely. Well, I'm curious to see how that turns out, honestly. I've been like, as you can tell, probably super like posted on this discussion. I've been like, I follow a few like league reporters, and I'm just like watching like every interview. I've watched a lot of interviews with like the team managers and stuff. I'm super interested to see how esports like develops over time. Because like when I was a kid, it was like just starting, like little Korean StarCraft circuits or whatever, and I feel like I'm growing with esports. Hashtag deep
Yeah, so
emotional.
basketball was invented in Canada by James uh, Naismith. I don't know. I can't say his last
Basketball
name.
was
In
invented in Canada?
1891.
Basketball's
Yeah,
Canadian, really?
yeah. Basketball's Canadian.
Wow.
I
I
feel
didn't
like
know
Yeah,
that.
I
I
mean,
was
you blew
watching.
my mind.
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah,
Serious.
it was invented in Canada, and
What
that's
the
there was a
fuck?
really big pushback for having professional basketball players here in Canada. And like you can read the history about
That's
it and stuff, and
crazy.
it's really incredible the pushback about paying players.
Wow. Because
Yeah,
they were like, it's
professional
just a
players.
hobby. Blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
But they
It should
don't
be a fun
understand.
pastime that people should do and be a
Yeah.
genuine like sportsmanship to. And the idea of paying someone is just basically you get an elite on your team and now you win all the time. And so basically whatever team could
It's like
afford the
try
best
hards.
player
Try
wins.
hards. It's solo queue. That was it before the professional scene was big. That's what it was. Those players were try hards. Because
It
I
was the
hate that they
original
beat me and my friends.
pay to win. So whoever could afford the best player could have them on their team and they would win. And so it
Yeah.
was the original pay to win and the original pushback from that.
And it is tried and true to this day. It's still pretty pay to win, I hear. Um, arguably, obviously. Um, but yeah, like people don't understand that when you spend your entire day practicing to be like this optimal machine, because people do want to see the highest level of play. It's like, when are you gonna have time to work a job? You don't. So it has to be your job, otherwise they can't do it. Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be like any of us going to work and them being like, you should enjoy what you're doing here. This should be your hobby. You're not getting paid for this shit. You're,
Oh, you like
Yeah,
cooking? Well, cook for 12 hours for my amusement.
you're not getting paid. You like this, right?
This is what you said you wanted. So
Yeah.
shut up and starve. Yes, very good economics. Brought to you by the
Yeah,
BoomIts
you
Podcast.
definitely have to act as if you want it. But the truth is, like, you wouldn't do that job unless they paid you. Like, the only reason
Yeah.
you're there is for the paycheck, and if you weren't getting the paycheck, you'd leave. You would never come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is never done for its own sake. It is done for the paycheck, and that is a
I mean,
job.
shit.
Well, I
Any
mean-
jobs like that, right? Like most
are some.
jobs, it doesn't matter
rare
how
exceptions,
much you
so-
love your job. You wouldn't do it if you weren't getting paid. Like,
Yeah. It's just unrealistic.
yes, you can
in
love what you're doing,
world.
but you can't sustain yourself off of what you're doing
Mhm.
at all. You
Yeah.
need payment, or else you're
I think
not
that's the
there.
realization that most people have once they get out of high school. It's like, yeah, find a job doing something you love, and you're like, yeah, those don't pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Seriously.
I can't get paid for
Oh my
getting
God.
like, wasted on the couch and watching like TV and shit. Like, if that was a
No.
full-time job, I'd be a millionaire. But no,
Yeah.
Yeah. Succeeding is naturally hell. You have to like work to put that smile on. To an extent, like obviously you could be happy on the journey and happy in your day-to-day life generally. You don't have to be miserable the entire time until you succeed, but like you do have to put in the work, and the work is hard, and it's like that no matter what like avenue you take. But the problem that we're talking about really is just when people say that's not an avenue, that's like a side path.
Yeah.
Because like it's made of dirt, because not a lot of people have walked it. They're just like, get on the
That's-
highway, yo.
That's the funniest
Shit's
thing.
whack.
When like all of the most high paying jobs in the world, you get laughed at when you start taking that career path. Like
True.
everybody. Well, you're like, yeah, I want to do this, and they're just like, huh, good luck, you're garbage.
What makes you think you're so special? Kind of
Exactly. Yet those are the most like high paying jobs,
Yeah.
and everybody just brushes you off as you're just trash.
Yeah, you just
can you
gotta like.
can you give us an example? I'm curious of what you have in mind as
Yeah,
Streamer.
sure.
oh,
And literally
okay.
anything to do with like what's the word here?
Mhm.
Online, like an online personality.
Online
there
personality.
we
Yeah.
go. That's where I was trying to go with that.
Where
anything like that, they're just like
99% of people fail, but
Pretty
that top
much.
1% succeeds really hard.
that's like the most like high paying thing you can look at, or like music. When you say like, hey, I'm into music, somebody's just like, huh, get a real job.
Yeah.
But if you succeed, you're like the richest person.
Yeah, you're almost a god to them at that point. They're gonna be like
Exactly.
kissing your boots. You just need to ask yourself, like, it's gotta be somebody. Why not me? Like I can be that person. Fuck what everyone else says. Like if
I just
put in the work, make it happen.
I don't understand why
Be that
everybody tries
person.
to tear each other down instead of being like, you know what, try. Like, why can't that just be the idea? Like, hey, I want to do this. It's like, okay, there's the chances of that happening are relatively low, but you know what? Try. You could get lucky. Like,
Exactly.
why do you have to shoot somebody in the foot as soon as they say it? Like, why do you have to just crush their dream immediately? Like,
I mean, I want to say like a lot of it is probably jealousy. First of all, people who lack the confidence to go there and be their own person. They've obviously dreamed of it too. Like, who doesn't want success? But they just see
Yeah.
that you're like approaching it a little differently. I think they get like scared, jealous.
Like, what if you're a parent and you fell in that 99%, and then you have a kid who you're raising and who thinks he's going to
You
end up
died
in that
well.
1% too? Well, you might have died
Oh.
well, but like, you might also have to endure some consequences later in life because of decisions you made previously in life.
well, stop.
And
I understand what you're trying to say, but the thing is, I don't, because everything died on your end. Like your mic died, your camera died.
my mic,
You're like
and camera
fast
died.
forwarding and like chopping between sentences. I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, let's rewind about 25 seconds.
All right, could you start that over?
I'm sorry,
Parents-
thank you, Andrew, for saving that. Like,
Yeah.
I was just watching it happen. I'm like, sometimes I just want to watch the world.
I wasn't aware. Sorry.
You said something about parents and 95%,
Yes.
and then that's when it all went
and
to
then
shit.
it like paused, then and then you like went normal again or something. Yeah. What?
So imagine you're a parent
Mhm.
in that 99% of people who failed,
Yeah. Okay.
and your kid is hoping that they're going to be in that 1%, and you're
Mm,
trying to give them advice. You're trying to give them an accurate representation of the world and an accurate representation of the challenge that's ahead of them, and an accurate representation of the most likely probable outcome. Not to say that you're dismissing their dreams, but
mhm.
you're just trying to have them have an accurate representation of the real world, and that maybe they might not make the same choices you made, or they might end up making different ones. So they, instead of aiming for a 99% industry, they maybe aim for a 60-50 industry that's like, I don't know, a doctor, lawyer, where like most doctors and lawyers, if you get to that point, I'd say it's not a 90 sort of 99% that don't make it. It's like if you're smart enough to make it into a doctor and you're going through the steps, you will most likely make what a doctor makes.
Mhm.
So it's like I definitely see the idea of like, yeah, supporting your kids' dreams and like definitely like, give them incentive to head towards that 1%, but also
Mhm.
like if you were in that 99% and you
Yeah.
spent your whole life doing that.
Like they gave up
I
on their
mean,
dreams a long time
on
ago.
Yeah,
honestly, like I'd have like the advice that I like gave to myself basically, and it's
The god
do
Andrew has bestowed upon himself
shut
this
up.
gift.
I opened my third eye and got this advice, yeah,
Yeah.
but but
Sorry.
I have shit I want to do. Of course, I want to make it in music. That'd be
Mhm.
great, but I know the chances of that happening are low as shit. So, what I've decided to do to support myself while doing it is go into a career where I can get to a place where I'm comfortable. Like,
Mhm.
I know I can grow. Like, I'm most likely going to be a head chef within like a
3 days.
year. 3. Yeah, that's a bit much. I'd say like a year.
Mhm.
And that's at that point a salary that I could live off of comfortably. Like shit, at this point I already can live off my salary comfortably.
Yeah.
So, I feel like you have to have something in your life where if your dreams don't succeed, you won't just fall apart. You can't put
Have a
everything,
yeah.
have a backup. Yeah, have a net. You can't put everything into your dreams because if I would just like today was just like, you know what? I'm not showing up to work. I quit. And then I don't make it, I'm going to be homeless. Like
Yeah.
don't do that shit. Like
Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have a
like
backup
don't.
plan. It's true. I mean I've taught myself the same thing basically. Which
Like
is really silly that parents like give so much advice or whatever. They'll tell you like probably not gonna happen, whatever. But there's no mention of just do it, but have a backup plan for most people's
yeah.
parents, at least.
Yeah.
I think my
Like
parents might have
sure.
said something along those lines, but I have really good parents. I know most people don't.
Like sure, I'm only going to be making like 70 to like 90 as like a salary. I'm not, going to be having like mills on my neck, but if I do make it,
Unless,
sure. But
yeah,
if not, I'm fine with that.
yeah, that's a big
Like I
part of it is
can
just being happy along the way because fuck.
like shit, if I don't make it in music, I'm still going to make music. I love
Mhm.
doing it. I don't give a shit. Like,
Be happy
yeah,
whether
do
you
it for its
fail
own
or
sake.
succeed.
exactly.
Ah, ah. I. How do you feel about that, Will? You be quiet. I basically
No, I like
agree.
I like that idea because then you shift what it means to actually succeed. And if you're taking it at that criteria, then yeah, it's not a 99 and a 1%. Then it's most people who do what they like and feel fulfilled. Then yeah, you have a very good chance of enjoying the life you're living.
Haven't felt that yet, but I feel it. I
It's
understand. I
It's the
understand.
goal, right? You don't know when you're gonna
Yeah.
get there.
no, or if you will. It's like if you love what you're doing, you've already won. That's a quote from George Watsky, fucking slam
You,
poet,
you,
rapper extraordinaire.
you
Fucking
made
love
a
him.
quote from Hobson earlier too.
True, you pick up on it. Nothing's
Yeah.
naturally how you have to work to smile on.
You have to
Quote
work to have a
Hobson.
stroke.
2020.
Yeah.
Honestly, I listen really closely to a lot of songs over and over again, just trying to figure out like kind of like put myself in the headspace of where they were when they were writing that and figure out why they chose those words. I've listened to the same songs like hundreds of times. And like some quotes
Yeah.
really stick with me. Like yeah, like another one is like the holes the we all have souls with holes like Swiss cheese. That's another Watsky quote. That was like a topic from like last podcast, I think. Or
Yeah,
at least
and then
part of it. It
you
just
know,
starts
Will
from a
probably heard
song and
that
then
and
I
had a
overthink it.
small aneurysm with the soul, but yeah.
It's like it's like Casper, the friendly soul. You don't think about it. It makes sense.
But yeah, that kind of like ties in like what we were talking about a little bit before. Sure, I might be I'm gonna skip your skip your topic real quick, Will. But it tied in
Oh!
really well with mine.
The topic list has been name dropped. Now we can't pretend the whole thing is improvised. Thanks, jerks.
Yeah, we've been rambling already, so
Yeah, we did on the first topic.
yeah, the first. Yeah, exactly. This whole hour at this point has been improvised, so that's what it is. But
yeah, basically,
This is
But
perfect.
yeah,
This is what I wanted.
I mean,
not
honestly,
get to my
this
topic.
this is what I wanted to never.
We can do it next time.
Will's anxiety.
It's palpable.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like nobody's really free to do what they want to do, and everybody, like let's use like the U.S. as a prime example. Everybody got like freedom on the back of their truck. No one's free. Like, literally nobody is free. Do you wake up and have to go to your job? You are not free. Immediately.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you have more freedom to do what you want outside of those hours, but 50% of your life is your job. That isn't freedom.
It's
And
like
I don't know why
recess.
anybody thinks they have it. We're still working for basically the ability to live. We're not free at all. You can't do what you want. If any country was free, you could just wake up and be like, you know what? I'm gonna just go back to sleep. I don't feel like it today.
Yeah.
I want to do what I want to do.
But can't you do that in America? Like, obviously, I get what you mean.
Yeah,
Where,
and
like,
then
if
be
you don't
homeless
have,
and die.
Yeah.
But don't you have the freedom to do that?
Yes, you do. But what I'm saying is, like, you can't live a fulfilled life
I don't know. I've met some happy homeless
without.
people.
Oh, I mean, he's right, though. I like, want to tell him to shut up, but he's right. How do you do that?
In a very small case, all right, Will.
Yeah, I mean, and then, like, I'd say you're also not free by the way that there are laws, you know? You're not entirely free. There's law enforcement. You can't do anything you want, but you can do a lot of things as long as you follow the rules and X is greater than or
And
equal
as long
to
as
Y.
you have a job, and as long as you have the money to pay us to do the said things that you think are free. Want to read that book? Pay us. But you can't pay us unless you have a job, so you're really not free.
So I think this really comes down to like how you go about defining and how you like what context you're talking about freedom. If you're talking about like, does an individual have the freedom to access, all of the benefits of society, like healthcare, like education, like, communication and stuff like that, but then they also have the freedom to, let's say, not have to pay any of the obligations or any of the personal investment that we require from our normal citizen or participation. Like, should someone feel free to like take from the system and not have to give to it? And in that regard, I would say no, you're not free to do that. In the same way, like you're not free to swing your arm if it's going to hit someone else's nose, but you are free to swing your arm. So it's the context of like where does freedom really go? And so, are you free enough to oppress someone else? You know, or do you have enough freedom so that you could have a slave? Like, are you that free, or are there some restrictions because there are other entities that were existing around? And so that's the
Mhm.
tough part is like, yeah, you have maximal freedom, and then you have dealing with physical reality and other organisms that we're interacting with. And like, you have to try to find a balance in where you want to place that little dot of freedom in between them.
Yeah. Because it
Because,
sounds
yeah,
like,
we do have to interact with each other.
obviously, it sounds like Andrew's
Yeah.
saying we're not free to experience everything and do everything.
As
I
we want, is what I'm
Yeah,
saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't just stand on the top of a building and be free enough to like fly. Like, no, you are
mhm.
Well,
bound by physical
I'm
laws and
not
a
saying
physical
like
reality.
break.
And if
I
everyone was
don't mean to
free,
that extent though.
it would not
No, no,
be
but you're
sustainable.
also in like the same way not free to not eat. Like, you have the freedom to not put food in your body, but at the same time, that will eventually kill you.
Yeah, but
So
you will
yes, you do have
die,
the
so you're
freedom.
not free.
Exactly. So you're never going to be free from your own physicality. You're never going to be free from the idea that you are a physical being in a physical like reality, and you have to interact with other physical beings in physical reality. Like,
And on
you'll
a
never be
lower
free from that fact.
and on a lower basis, you're not free from society and how you have to interact with it. So we're
If
not
if you want to
in any
interact with it,
way.
Right, you can choose.
I think.
Actually, you can't really choose not to
You
interact.
can't choose not to interact with it. Because if you choose not to interact with society, you're going to die.
Yeah,
So you're not free to not.
I think as a social organism that we, anytime we try to isolate ourselves from being social and being interacting in our own social sort of structure, yeah, you have a lot less probability of living just as being a social species. Now, if we were like lone hunter organisms, and that's kind of our
Mhm.
way of operating, I think we wouldn't have to deal with such social standards.
But
But
not every
we
human
happen to
is a
be social
social
creatures.
human. There are humans who are those lone wolves, and they have to suffer. They have to suffer.
Yeah,
Like
they are
Do
the
they go to
reproducing
exception,
the
and they
their
do
grocery
suffer
instinct.
because of
store?
it. Yeah.
Yeah. What's up, Andrew?
No, I just said, do they go to the grocery store even if they live on their own?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Then they're not free.
then they can grow their own shit, but then they have to go somewhere.
They have
But
to then
okay,
buy
we're
their
getting to the realm
fertilizer.
of this is why there are restrictions, right? Because it would literally not be possible if we just said everyone's free. Do whatever, fucking like it would be horrible. Everyone's life would suck, and people would end up having less freedom overall because they'd be scrounging to survive. So
And
it's
they'd
like
have no way of being like stopping oppression from happening to them because
exactly.
these ideas of like freedom of travel, freedom of association,
hmm
freedom of protest, freedom of
If someone
communication.
sits on you, really big guy sits on you, you're not free to move anymore.
Yeah,
We need
the only
someone
thing
to
that's
be like, "Hey, guy, get up."
yeah, the only thing that guarantees these freedoms is the fact that we're all willing to kind of put weight towards them as a collective society. That's the only reason why these things actually mean anything.
hmm
Otherwise, like there's nothing stopping individuals from having slaves or like from like basically restricting people from traveling or protesting or like yeah being a fascist government because like they're only valuable because we make them valuable.
hmm
So like yeah, we're definitely not free. I would agree with that, but there's a there's a price to pay, I
we
guess,
have
for wanting to
we have a
coexist.
level of freedom, but it's a very small amount.
Well, I want to turn this into a question, and the question is: do we have the optimal level of freedom, considering that there have to be some restrictions in order for us to coexist?
I say yeah. I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at.
I would
How about
say
you,
that's
Rob?
a really good question, and I think we're getting closer all the time. I don't know if we're 100% there yet. Even when you look at the idea of like safe spaces or what is acceptable to say to certain individuals and not to other individuals, and like freedom of speech, I think we're still kind of trying to hammer out some finer points. But I
hmm
hope that we're on the right trail, that our end goal is for the betterment of all of us,
Definitely.
and that hopefully will set us on the right track.
And even if we do veer off that path, hopefully we can get back onto it. That would be
Yeah.
nice.
It's the human race. What do you think? That ain't happening. If we veer off the path, we're going
We're fine.
we're doing a full 360. We ain't coming back onto that. Like we're
Wait,
gone.
wait, but a full 360.
A 360 would be back onto that. 180,
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm just waiting for shit to turn into the Fallout universe.
How about 96.3 degrees just randomly changes?
Actually,
You know-
96.3 degrees would be just a little bit above a right angle, or sorry, yeah, a little bit past a right angle.
Yeah,
Because that's not 90 degrees, so like just a little bit down there.
but I would think to come back and to answer my own question because I never did. I do think we're getting there, and I do think at a base level, for the most part, I think there are good systems in place. However, yeah, it's just like with the esports thing. Like you can never predict what tomorrow is going to bring, and everything's constantly changing. And there's like so many factors. It's like even if someone had the right idea, implementing it is like a whole different thing. And then maybe that's a little unrealistic. So like again, considering that it has to be realistic, I think we're doing a pretty good job. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Good job with
Oh.
society. We turned this
We're still
negative
figuring it
topic into
out.
something vaguely
I
positive.
mean, our
Let's go.
I
I mean, our
think
society is still pretty messed with like
Yeah, we're fine.
our
There's no
judicial
hope.
systems, like like
Yeah.
judicial
we definitely have a
systems,
ways to go.
all of our like medical systems,
Mhm.
healthcare systems, everything's screwed. Everything is all out of whack. Like we are nowhere near where we should be. You know,
And then how do
I
you
got a
define
lot-
what's right? What is the good system? This is fucking 8 different.
yeah.
schools of thought
Have
on
you
that.
looked into our systems though? They're so rigged. So many of our systems are so rigged for money.
Yeah.
By so many, I mean basically all. But
Yeah, name one
literally
that's not.
all.
Name one that's not.
Literally all. You know, I was
Perks
a
of
lot
living in a
less.
capitalist society.
Perks. That's an opinion.
The perks of being.
Well, he's free to think that
Oppressed.
that's a perk, but I'm free to say that's bullshit. Oh
I
my
lose
God.
my leg, but have to pay $4,000. Perk. That's a perk.
I mean, sounds like a joke, but genuinely, yeah.
Yeah, no, that was more of a joke. If you're 100% capitalist, then yeah, you definitely end up running into those sort of problems, which is why like I appreciate that Canada has some socialist solutions like public health care.
God bless the bare minimum. In my opinion, I think it should be
Unless
the bare
unless of
minimum.
course there's something wrong with your eyes, in which case we don't cover it.
Crystal without healthcare.
No, but we don't cover eye care here in Canada.
Or wait, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
listen, memes don't
And-
make
and
sense.
dental.
It's
What?
meme philosophy. Listen, it was just like, if you look a few extra layers down, you'll understand. Or if you don't think about it at all. Anyway, I'm
You
not
know,
funny.
I was a lot less I was a lot less pessimistic about my life and the world before this conversation started.
I don't believe that.
What do you mean you don't believe that? I'm not a pessimistic person, okay? I'm very joyful. I look forward to the new day every day.
I'm glad
I
that you
think-
convinced yourself of this.
Sort of.
I think you might have a point.
Anyway, quickly, someone segue us away from the existential torment of our unrelenting pain.
From my depression, let's go.
Wow.
Well, I had an idea of talking about the Bethesda acquisition and how they had just got bought by another company, but that just seems like more company talk and more bogging it down.
You know
We
what?
are
Hell
talking
with
a
it.
lot
We're
about
already
companies.
we're
and
already
economics.
there.
I mean, that gives me a title. Something
Economics.
economics. That's gonna
Sounds a-
everyone's gonna click on the economics video. Oh my god.
Everyone wants to hear about economics.
What have we become? Say something.
So, what do the two of you actually think about like the idea of like so Bethesda's just got bought, which like is going to mean like hopefully some exclusivity for or not hopefully, but like it will most likely mean some exclusivity for Microsoft and PC games in the future coming out of Bethesda. But it also what it means is like now the IP from a lot of Bethesda games can be used in other companies, which I'm like really excited about. I don't know if either of you are like Fallout fans. I'm a huge Fallout fan,
I'm big
and
into Elder Scrolls for the most part. Not really
there you
Fallout.
go. Oh yeah, the Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, stuff like that. The idea of like Bethesda as a company taking about 3 years to produce their games in cycles. So you'd have like a Fallout game, 3 years later you'd have a Elder Scrolls game, 3 years later you'd have a Fallout game, and now they want to introduce Starfield into the rotation. So we're really
Hmm.
having to wait like 6 years for like the next Fallout game or something like that, and that's a really long time to wait for an IP. And so hopefully what is going to happen with them being bought or under a larger umbrella is that now other companies besides Bethesda can actually use the same like Fallout or Elder Scrolls IP and develop different like kind of games for that. And so we won't have to wait so long. Or maybe Microsoft is going to actually then pool in the resources. Sorry, Bethesda got bought by Microsoft in case anyone wasn't aware.
Yes, that is the
Yeah,
company in
I should
question.
mention that. Yeah.
Uh, I, I mean, I don't even know what question you're asking anymore. To be honest, that was a lot, but I just want to say, when you said waiting 6 years for an IP is great pain, it just made me think like rest in peace, Metroid fans. Like Jesus Christ,
But that's the idea is like hopefully I'm not sure. Do you know if
poor guys.
Metroid
They're
is owned by
wailing.
Bethesda?
No, it's a Nintendo thing, but they like
Okay.
it's been like 10 plus years, and they announced like 6 years ago they were like Metroid game soon. It's been 6 years. They haven't said anything about it since.
Didn't they? Didn't they
I
have
don't.
a new like another Metroid game? Really, not recently, but like a few years ago.
I
The last
don't
one I
I
thought
know.
was Metroid Exodus.
I'm actually not that huge into Metroid, but I don't. A Metroid
I'm
game
not either.
hasn't come out in the past few years. Definitely.
I swear a Metroid game came out recently.
I
Hold
mean,
on, let
feel
me
free to
check
look at
this.
it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But so, what was your question, Will? How do we feel about
My
Bethesda
question
being
is like
bought and like PC
no, how do you feel
exclusivity?
about like the idea, yeah, PC exclusivity, or not just PC exclusivity, but like the idea of like having exclusive games and like the idea
Hmm.
of like new IPs being generated by like other companies outside of Bethesda, but still pertaining to Elder Scrolls or Fallout.
Yeah. I mean, I think it
You
makes
excited?
sense. I think well, I don't know about excited. If anything, I'd say I probably am not a huge fan of it as a consumer. Because obviously it's better for us if no matter what we have, we can play the game. But it's better for the companies um, to make them exclusive because it's just like what subscription services are doing nowadays as they're buying more and more exclusive rights to these shows. Now instead of just having Netflix, you have to have Netflix, Disney, Hulu, whatever, just to watch the same four shows that previously you just had Netflix and you could watch all four of them. It's the same thing. Like you had a PlayStation, you could play like Skyrim, Uncharted, whatever else. But now it's like, oh, you need a PlayStation for Uncharted. You need an Xbox for Bethesda games, and then you're gonna need a PC for the like uh, like League of Legends or like whatever the fuck. It's like now as consumers we are getting the short end of the stick because now we have to, if we want to like keep up the same interest and whatever, we have to now spend the money on more consoles and like yeah, I think it sucks.
I
Andrew, what
mean,
about you?
I'm kind of under the same opinion, right? Like, I really don't give too many shits about exclusives.
It's
Like
true.
whenever people are like, "Oh, I got the best exclusive," I'm like, I don't give a shit, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
What's
like
that mean?
cool. What is why does that matter to you? Like, why does that matter at all?
Hmm.
An exclusive to me is just why, literally why, just why. That's
Like you
my
don't see the
question.
purpose
Why
for them.
exactly?
Yeah.
Yeah, they end up creating a large barrier for me. I think like I never bought a PS4 myself, and so like a lot of the PS4 exclusives like Spider-Man, God of War, I haven't actually ended up playing so far just because they're simply exclusives. Where if you have
Hmm.
something that's a little bit more cross-platform, I end up yeah being a lot more inclined to play it, and I definitely see that as like a hindrance rather than an add-on.
Yeah.
Let me tell you guys, as a variety streamer that does game requests, I think I probably hate exclusive titles more than either of you. Period. I've like because a viewer comes in, they game request X game. I'm like, okay, what console is that on? Oh, I don't have that one. Can I emulate it? No. Oh, do I know any friends that have that console? Do I have family? I'm like, if they were all just on like the same thing, if they were just like made cross compatible and there were no exclusivity laws, my life would be so easy. So
Yeah.
it's like just this added layer of like stress and spending that corporations tag on because like there does need to be competition in the market, which is
Yep.
fair, which is also good for us, I guess. So I don't know.
And I mean, I'm kind of the mindset of like, well, I used to be. At this point now, I have PC, all the consoles, handhelds. I don't. It doesn't really apply to me at this point, but it did.
Yeah.
Where as soon as it was on a console that I didn't have, I just didn't give a shit about
Yeah.
it anymore. Like I was like, oh, cool, I want to get that, and then it's like exclusive. I'm like, whatever.
Oh my god,
Like
this is
I
how everyone
immediately.
responded when Bethesda had that big reveal after like 4 years with no big games. They're like, mobile. It's like it's playing on your phone. Everyone's like, we wanted Skyrim 2. Like, what is this? Shit?
Everyone's just,
Mobile game. Exclusively on mobile. You can play it anywhere. It's on your phone. It's like, okay, but I want to play it with the best controls that I want. I don't want to deal with the little fucking like. What if you
Yeah,
want to
but
sit down and
mobile.
relax? Oh, true. Oh, I forgot. Everyone has a cell phone. That's why it's the greatest game design mechanic of all time. Stupid.
I love that when they did like they even made a meme out of it for like Bethesda themselves when they're like, yeah, we put Skyrim on like Alexa,
Wow.
Yeah.
and so it's like a
Is
little
it?
voice box, and you're just like
Walk
playing Skyrim through
forward
like a
3
voice box.
steps. Push road
It's exactly how I was playing it. Yeah, you approach a mountain, he's like, fucking climb it. Start climbing. I don't know.
Angle camera downwards reverse face mountain move camera left and right spam. Why? I guess. I guess I'll climb the mountain then. Do you guys know what that is? It's a camera trick in Skyrim to climb steeper cliffs. You have to like look down and rotate and jump,
Oh,
and you
I've
can
always just looked
scale
straight at
steeper
the mountain.
cliffs. Yeah,
Okay.
that's actually not that's not the best way for whatever reason.
I don't know. I've always just used my
Is what it
horse
is.
because the moment you're on a
Yeah.
horse, you can have like a
True, true, dude. The horse is
yeah,
the
damn near 90
screenshots of
degrees, and you're like,
horses just
screw it.
standing sideways is glorious,
Yeah.
and your hair is just unaffected. It's like going down this way. It's like video games have a while to go. I think.
Physics.
In a nutshell.
You need to get up a few stories. Just get on your horse. All
Mhm.
good. Just right up the side of that skyscraper. Physics. I've seen it in Skyrim.
Well, then it must be true, right? Because they have a physics engine.
Oh, I saw that in Ghost
Physics.
Rider too.
No, I think that was just a physical engine. What's the difference?
Between a
And
physical
Doctor Who.
engine.
They did that in Doctor Who as well, where he went like straight up a building. I do enjoy that
Like
kind of
walking?
premise. No, he like did a motorbike, and then I guess he
Oh.
had it from like the zero gravity motorbike races or
This is
something.
like when
Yeah, kinda
Sonic
cool.
the Hedgehog runs up a flat skyscraper and you're like,
Yeah,
he has no added grip. What force is moving him towards the building every time he kicks off of it with his feet? Like, moving around at the speed of logic.
He's going so fast.
Science.
Physics.
Physics. Racers. Physics racers. I mean, it sounds lame, but then you consider that Geometry Wars is a game, and it's really good, honestly.
isn't that more math?
No, it's not even math. It's literally just things that are shapes, and the shapes determine what type of enemy they are. Just fly at you, and it's like a bullet hell survive kind of thing. And there's like different
So like
levels. and-
Tetris, but cooler.
Is that the one with the
No.
cool like
You know, okay, like
background music?
one of the first video games ever, that little like asteroids one where you're going around shooting the meteors.
Oh yeah, asteroids. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that, but replace the asteroids with sentient geometrical like shapes, and each shape like diamonds will like they're smart and they can dodge shots and like move at you, but then like squares just move slowly towards you, and
And there's
things
like
like that. It
EDM
gets more
playing in the background and
complicated.
shit.
Yeah, and there's like
Yeah, I'm
little
familiar.
shuriken shaped things just like bounce off walls, like that AFK logo where it's like Asus. You know what I mean?
Never hits
Telos.
the corner.
Yeah.
Never.
I swear one day I saw it hit the corner.
I swear to God, I have seen those things hit the corner. Like it can't. I swear to God, it's happened. Like I'm
I
like.
woke up in cold sweats one night because I had a dream of it hitting the corner.
Maybe it wasn't in my dreams. I was just like so frustrated by it. My mind was just like, yes, the corner. It's like pieces connecting. I remember it like
I
it
ha-
was yesterday.
I have been there.
But,
I have been there. I've like
but you know,
ordered an
speaking of
entire meal of fried chicken in my dream and then woke up right before I was about to bite into it and I damn near cried.
you
Oh
just
man,
felt the sadness. You
that
bit
is
into
the
sadness.
that is a pit of sadness when you have a dream and right at the best part, like right as the best part is starting, you're about to go for that adventure that you spent. Like I've had entire dreams where I just like build up and I'm just like scavenging equipment or whatever and like preparing for something, and then it's immediately like, all right, let's. The back of my shitty life. It's like, great. I'm glad I could experience this. The awkward silence only adds to my despair.
You know, I just
Anyway,
love I love the physical depression in this episode. It's nice.
yes, physical depression and economics.
We all get to give our personal laments.
God bless America. Oh my God,
Oh,
and God save the Queen, and that's a segue because holy shit, did you guys see the shit about the royal family recently? Absolutely
no.
insane.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, so Will did. Andrew has no idea. Okay, should you
I
tell him, Will, or should I?
Yeah, well, why don't you explain it?
Okay, I will now do that. So Prince Harry, is it? Is Prince Harry? I'm good at this. Prince Harry and
I
his wife
believe.
left the royal family a long time ago. So Prince Harry is in like the British royal family. I'm pretty sure he was like next in line to be prince or whatever. He ended up marrying a half, um, I think African. She's something. I'm not very good at ethnicities. Wonder why. Uh, but recently they did an interview with Oprah. It's been like a year since they left the royal family or whatever, and I guess now they decided is the time to talk about it. And Oprah basically
okay.
sat them down and was like, "Did you leave because they was racist?" And they said yes, to the surprise of nobody, basically. But it is
Why?
really
What were their like
interesting.
allegations against it?
Yeah, it's really interesting to see exactly like where and how the racism like manifests and takes place. Um, I don't know if I should just get into specific examples, but like one is
I mean, yeah,
definitely
of course.
they were talking about, and they haven't said yet who asked them this, but they were having a baby. Or I guess I think they've already had the baby now, but at the time they were going to have a baby, and she was pregnant with their child, soon to be Prince Junior, what royal family. Anyway, potential next in line, whatever. They said just straight up to them, they're like, your son will have no royal title, and he will not get the royal security following him around, and he will not like adopt any lads. And they asked, or adopt any lads. We're not that old timey anymore, but um, and then there were some other discussions taking place. They were concerned about like the color tone of the child, and they were asking, and they were basically like implying like if they were too dark, then like they could not represent the royal family or something like to that extent. Like somebody walked up to Prince Harry, not his wife, not the colored woman, because of course not. They walked up to Prince Harry and were like, "Hey, so we're a little concerned that your child might be too dark, basically." And like I don't even remember what they said was gonna happen or if they did, but they were like implying that it would be worse than no title, no security, basically just detached from the royal family just because of the color of his skin. And then they're like, oh yeah, it might be worse. We might like just not tell people about his birth or like something like that. Obviously, they didn't say that. I'm reading into it, but like implications of something worse.
Damn, I hadn't read up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the baby's name is Archie.
yeah, Archie. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's a cute name.
Yep.
I like the
And
Archie comics.
they're saying he may only be 1 year old, um, but he's already been like through like he already has a bunch of media like attention on him.
Yeah, that's not healthy for a baby, obviously.
Yeah, and I
I mean,
think
that
at
baby's
this
not gonna
point,
remember it.
uh, uh, Harry doesn't actually, or Prince Harry, doesn't also, sorry, Prince Harry at this point, if I'm not mistaken, um, no longer uses their converted, or yeah, they no longer use the title of Your Highness. They more go with the Duke and Duchess titles, which I think is kind of interesting because,
Hmm.
like, yeah,
They're trying to
Meghan
dissociate, which.
is the Duchess of Sussex,
Hmm.
which I thought was kind of interesting. But yeah, there
Makes
is
sense.
definitely some disassociation in the royal family. I'm not entirely sure what happened a few generations ago, but I know that there was a remarriage with one of the firstborn sons, and that's why the crown ended up actually going to the secondborn son, who was Queen Elizabeth's father.
Hmm.
So Queen Elizabeth wouldn't even be in power right now if it wasn't for, I believe, her grandfather actually, or her grandfather's brother, remarrying. And that was considered to be like completely not okay. And the idea that he remarried meant he had to step down from being royalty. And so they have a lot of
Hmm.
really weird and archaic rules about royalty that I think still kind of linger in that system.
Yeah, a lot. Unsurprisingly, like I don't think they've like changed anything, and I feel like it's kind of like a cult at this point. It must be like so like squared and like boxed in that they like whisper these things amongst each other. Because like if they were receiving like outwards input, like how could I mean I can't even say that. There's so many.
I mean, honestly,
Uh,
I would have to actually
oh
like
my goodness.
look into it to be able to offer up like a valid response.
Hmm.
Because if I don't actually like know the full story, I can't just take like a half-assed response at it, right?
Hmm.
And
No,
that
it's
kind of
true.
thing, you know.
But I mean, literally, like I'm slightly paraphrasing, very slightly. But Oprah was she literally asked, like, do you think that they were like just being racist and like treating you differently because of the color of your skin? And um, Prince Harry's um wife just said yes. Period. That's pretty much as black and white as it could get, like from that regard.
Dang. Yeah.
Yeah, like Oprah gets straight to the freaking point. She's freaking Oprah. She doesn't give a shit. She's like, is the royal family racist? Okay. So there's
Just
really
no
not
no two
no room
seconds
for
about it.
interpretation. Yeah, which I'm very
Yeah.
thankful for because like they need to be like called out and like people need to know and shit needs to change.
And I
Obviously.
don't know. Before I take a stance, I always like to know both sides.
Hmm. I don't think there's been a rebuttal from the royal family so far. They're just kind of ignoring it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the guy who had the affair and or what was his name? Had to get remarried, but
Hmm.
I can't think of it now. But there is a really good movie about it called The King's Speech, which actually
Okay.
takes place at the exact same time. And the only reason he had to become the king and give the speech during that wartime was because his brother was involved in a remarriage.
Hmm.
So it
But
just
did
really
they
shows you
change
like how
anything after that?
no that he still had to step down and I believe get rid of his royal status.
Hmm. Sorry, I didn't
So
mean to
yeah,
interrupt you,
no, it's
but I'm
all
just
good.
like
I'm
wondering.
like mid Googling as I'm trying to find out his name. I think it was King. I think it was either George or Edward, but I will look into that further. But yeah,
Okay,
the King's Speech is definitely about him. So I will Google that really quick and I'll give you
that's
the name.
cool. I'm curious to see it like. if a similar thing happened nowadays, would they respond differently? Is a monarchy capable of forwards momentum? Uh,
Yeah.
Join us next millennia. Or we will try again, I guess. Oh my goodness.
So yeah, it was George the King George the Sixth. That's who.
That sounds
That's
very
who it
familiar.
was.
Yeah,
That was the guy who had to take over.
I remember hearing that it was a big controversy at the time. And like, yeah, everyone pretty happy with like Queen Elizabeth's bloodline. It seems for like a long time now. It's like one of the only European monarchies that survived in like any regard and is like still like appreciated by most people. So it's kind of interesting to see like the world's reaction to the royal family basically being confirmed as a bunch of like closet racists who like preach all this garbage, but then like amongst themselves they'll have their little bubble.
And that I ain't trying to defend anybody, but that's exactly why I don't make judgments until I have both sides.
Mm,
Don't make it guilty until proven innocent. That's the
true.
exact
You're saying the
opposite
royal
of what we should
family
be standing for.
deserves like some.
Yeah, I think maybe just because like one individual accused them of being racist, or
Mm-hmm,
because like
mm-hmm.
they have a history of it in the past, doesn't mean like it's systemic to who they are. Although like it's really hard to tell at this point because like we're
Yeah.
all standing here as outsiders, right? And what they're talking about, this sort of racism, is so integrate the racism that they're accusing them of is so integrated into the system that it'd
Mm-hmm,
be really hard to identify one specific racist individual or one specific
mm-hmm,
racist
mm-hmm.
action and then call that out, right? It's
Yeah.
so much harder with the type of racism that they're talking about.
It's very nuanced. I mean, I'm very quick to jump on the bandwagon just because I guess like I probably already thought that. To be honest, I've been thinking a lot recently about um like evangelical like Christian churches and like Jehovah's Witness groups and how like they kind of get this. I mean, this is like a big rabbit hole that requires like a lot of context. So like, bear with me if this sounds kind of weird, but they kind of get this attitude where they literally believe that there's something different inside of them that puts them on a different level. Be that I am a royal or I bear the Holy Spirit. There's something inside of me that puts me on a different playing field than you. Is like the mentality of these people, and whether or not like you want to be a bigot or if you even are, once you start thinking about things in this light, it is really, I feel like, a slippery slope um, towards like racist, sexist, homophobic, whatever. You just start generalizing it like everyone who isn't you is now down here and you are up here. I think that's a dangerous mindset. And when you think about religious royal blood, they're all white. They're in charge of the country that has done like the most horrible racist shit pretty much ever. It's like I I probably already thought it. So yeah, maybe I'm jumping on it a little harder
Yeah, you
than I
are.
would. Yeah,
You're dick riding pretty hard right now.
but I mean, yeah, I understand what you guys are saying.
Yeah, it's just a very nuanced and complicated thing. It's hard to put your
Mm-hmm,
finger on.
mm-hmm. Definitely, because even if it is true, it's like, what's the solution? I heard Canada's thinking, like, obviously this raised discussions again about like detaching from them, but it's like a very complicated, arduous process. Trudeau like came out and said like basically it's not happening, but we're thinking about it. I think it was basically
Yeah,
like the thing because like it's very complicated and like very deeply entrenched and everything moves so slow in politics. Obviously.
not to mention like all of our laws only get their strength because they have the authority backed by the Queen.
Mhm.
And so we basically would have to restructure one our government because then we no longer have prime ministers. So Trudeau
Yeah.
like wouldn't have a spot to occupy anymore because we wouldn't have a prime minister, and we'd have to basically restructure the entire way we do our provinces as well. Because now the idea of provinces has to get scrapped because provinces again are a part of the Commonwealth, and so once you start basically stripping out the things that make us like a British Commonwealth, you would have to restructure most of like the way we like separate Canada, most of the way we do government business, most of the way we do economics, what the Canadian dollar means because it was like it's linked to Europe. And so like I don't know if it's linked to Europe anymore, but I know the Canadian dollar at one point was linked to Europe. But
Hmm.
it's reworking systems in an entirely different way. So I don't see us ever actually getting to that
There's
point.
no way we're doing that shit. There's
Yeah,
no
I
way
see
in
us more
hell.
just
Yeah,
like giving
it's a
them
lot
less
more
and less
nuanced.
authority over the years, which is kind of what we've been doing. We've been
Hmm.
having a slow transition where we become like most British Commonwealths are becoming more and more independent as time goes on.
Yeah.
And even like Britain themselves are like very adamant in creating policies that allow these commonwealths to function independently and govern themselves.
Hmm. Which is good. It's good.
Yeah, we're getting
Blatantly
there.
so. Yes. They definitely used to have a lot more say than they do nowadays, and it will probably go down in the future. And whether it's fact or fiction, publicity like this definitely does not move things in their favor if they do want to, you know,
Absolutely not. Yeah.
be everywhere. Yeah. I'm curious to see if there is like a rebuttal or like another side to the story. I expect it to probably just be ignored, I would say.
What?
Well, I mean, like in terms of the royal family actually coming out and like addressing this, like the
Oh,
specific
yeah.
allegations and like going into it or being like these are X reasons or like this is just false or like whatever. I doubt that they'd actually go out of their way to respond. But
Oh, they
we'll
I
did.
see.
mean,
They did.
Really?
They did. I think, yeah, his older brother said he just basically came out right and he's like, yeah, like my family's not a racist. My family's not racist at all. And that, like, I haven't yet spoken to my younger brother, but I have plans to. And that's
That's
basically where we're at now.
okay. That's good.
But he did have a response. He did have a response. And he did say, yeah, like, we're not racist.
Good. Well, that wasn't
and
an
I mean,
organizational thing, but at least one person. That's good.
how long ago did this happen exactly?
I think this in the past few weeks.
Yeah, I
Let me
want to
just
say no
Google it
more
right now.
than like 2 weeks.
Well, I
It's some
mean, it
time,
is
and you know
20.
they could just be thinking about their response.
It is 2021, so we'll probably forget about it within the next month.
True.
So,
There's gonna
so
be another like huge thing.
I really wouldn't put that much weight in it.
Hmm. Yeah, the
Yeah,
royal
Prince
family is
William
a lot like.
responded like 20 hours ago. So this is all like relatively new. The
Okay,
Meghan
yeah,
and
20
Harry
hours ago
interview
I must
happened
have heard
like
about
2 days ago, 3 days ago.
it.
Maybe it's 3 days ago. Yeah. So like this is all relatively new.
Very,
Look at
very
that.
new.
We're on the cutting edge of reporting.
Hmm.
Woo! Are these current events? Oh my goodness. Look at us being so hip and styling.
Let's change the whole podcast. We'll talk about strictly news now.
Yes, we
Yeah.
only follow the royal family, the Kardashians,
News, economics, and
Twitter,
politics. That's all we do.
the Twitter
Yeah,
feed.
news.
Yes, exactly. We'll just live stream the podcast 24/7. We'll all quit our jobs and we'll just read all the current things on Twitter and just talk about it. Because that's what's happening.
As long as we can
That'd
have
be
like
pain.
words trailing on the bottom of our screens.
Yes, of course. That's how you know it's live and
This
happening.
just in.
No, I did. I love that.
I totally get it though. And like the color red contrasted by the color blue. Because blue is for long term commitment, but red draws in the eyes. Advanced marketing. Yeah, the color blue actually, because it tends to like relax you. Looking at the color blue can make you like more aligned
Depressed.
to make better long term decisions. At least I've heard that. It's um neuroscience because like as like somebody who like went all out on YouTube and Twitch and whatever, I did a lot of like researching like colors and like logos and stuff like this. And yeah, red and like orange and like
Doesn't blue like make people feel like sad or like depressed? Because that's why a lot of people like in say the winter, since a lot of it's just like blue scale,
mm,
everybody's or not everybody, but like a lot of people get like seasonal depression from that.
yeah. I mean, that's all true, and that's another correlation with the color. So when you're coming together and like forming a logo and like trying to market around it, if you're gonna use the color blue, then make it exciting to like
Exciting seasonal
cancel out.
depression.
So it's
Hell
more like it's
yeah.
long. No, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm blue dabba dee dabba die. No, but it's like yes, because every color like has like probably like 10 things that are like emotions or feelings that you would associate with it with, some more than others obviously. Like yellow is correlated with like excitement generally, but then it's correlated with like fear a little bit. um so things like that. If you would want to remove the sadness from the color blue, make the logo pop, make it exciting, add like some characters or some other things, and like give your brand like that yeah, to like counteract the sad, like whatever, basically. It Lots of little things like that I think is what it's about.
I kind of just like the cold dead blue in a logo, you know.
Well,
Just draws you in, you just sucks your soul out
that's
when you
why
look at
medical facilities always just have a blue logo with just like waves and like a word. It's just sadness. That's what it is. Oh my god, we figured it out, boys. Well, yeah, but that's it. The exciting part is the water park. That that's the counter correlation.
The exciting part's the sadness, Crystal. What are you talking about?
I mean, there was no cure for whatever you have, Andrew. But I was. Oh my goodness.
I strictly go to water parks for sadness.
Yes, I like to drown in the blueness. It reminds me of when I'm alone in my room.
Yeah, wave pool.
My
Just
tears
get hit with
absorbed
waves
into the
of
solid water, but
sadness.
nothing changes. Nothing changes.
You know, I actually love water parks.
Me too, man.
I would 100% go to more.
Uh, my
But you know,
I miss the
if I got
more
in a
than
pool, I'd get
both of your
corona.
asses because I used to go to the water park all the time, and then when I came out as transgender, I started growing like boobs, but it wasn't really enough to wear a bra. I just never went to the water park again, and now I'm at a point where I'm like happy with my body. I can finally wear like a bathing suit and just chill. And now the water parks are all closed for a year, and some, and they'll still
You
be
know,
closed.
I have the same kind of backstory towards water parks. I went once and enjoyed it.
Nice.
Yeah. That's why I like water parks.
That's so sad. Like this video if that makes you say it.
It was a good time.
So you're saying it was like a tease kind of thing?
I almost
'Cause you only went
drowned at a
once?
pool at one point. It wasn't.
If you're into that, I
It
mean,
wasn't the same pool. Actually, no, it was that
you don't
pool.
get shame.
I got caught under the waves and I couldn't breathe, and I like started like sucking in water and like actually almost died. It was fun. It was a good time. That was the one time I went to the water park.
So how is this a similar story to what I said, or a similar
Well-
backstory? I'm just asking for a friend.
Well, you know, you had struggles about going to the water park. I almost died at the water park, which is a struggle, you know. I was struggling to stay alive while I was there. It's a similar story. Basically what happened is Will's mic cut off and he lost like 13 minutes of recording, which isn't that bad. He didn't say too much, hopefully.
Yeah.
Probably.
So the
So
audio
right
is
now-
out, but now we are back in a different timeline, and Will is here. Say hi, Will.
Hello.
Wow. How does he do it?
Majestic.
Recording.
Ladies and gentlemen, and he's back just in time for the end of the episode.
Yeah.
I don't know how we'll end up fixing that audio, but hopefully we can save the segment because that was kind of a fun segment. We were talking about water parks. Water parks are cool. And branding, and logos or whatever. Might not be the most exciting thing in the world, but it's much better than the economics from earlier.
That's just, I mean, it is kind. You kind of
I'm
did
kidding.
bring it back to economics at one point. You know, you're talking about like
Mhm.
I
Now,
completely forgot.
Andrew's
I'm
having
not
a
gonna
moment,
lie.
so
I'm
excuse me,
not
but
gonna
basically Will's
lie.
mic was having an issue. Oh my god, we're going in circles. This is the infinite cycle. We're doomed. We need to break it. Will, end the thing. Break the wheel.
All right. All
Stick it
right.
to
Well,
the
thank you
main.
so much for tuning in today. Have a great day, afternoon, evening, whatever it might be for you, and then we will catch you next time.
Aw,
Bye bye for now.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's over.
All right.